link, so I had to abandon that YouTube live link and come up with a new link. So I posted this link in our Telegram updates group as well as on my WhatsApp status. And today's topic, as you can see, I've mentioned some tips that I'll be discussing in order to improve our memory. Initially, I devised some 5 tips based on my experience, and then after reviewing literature, I've come across numerous other tips which are based on psychological research. These are not just based on our personal experiences, but these are actually based on sound psychological research. So we'll discuss those tips now. And before that, I hope the stream is going on fine. And yeah, if there are any issues with the streaming, do let me know. Because for the last few days, we're having some flooding issues in my hometown, Vijayawada, and because of which there has been disruption in internet as well as telecommunications as such. And we started having this internet only for the past 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, and now things seem to be improving. So we're returning gradually towards normalcy, but still there is a prediction that there can be heavy rainfall. So I hope the stream is going on fine. And if you have any issues with the stream, do let me know. I'll try other sources of connectivity. And also, I hope my voice is clear and audible. Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to highlight on the following topic: finding a right mentor. In fact, finding a right mentor, depending on our stage of life, is a blessing, because a mentor is not just a person who inspires us, but also he or she helps us navigate our life either personally or professionally. It's not just about professionalism I'm talking about, even on a personal level. If a person is able to inspire us, is able to make us choose and decide and ignite our passion, it can be on a personal level or professional level. If we find such a person in our life, that would be a blessing. As I said, these people ignite our passion, these people ignite our enthusiasm. Ultimately, that leads to some actions in our life which will eventually benefit us as well as society at large. So, at different phases of life, we do have different mentors. During our childhood, we largely had our parents as our mentors, right? And as we started growing up, we used to look up to our teachers. We even used to look up to our friends who are performing exceptionally well in various tasks apart from studies. And as we grow up, our mentors also keep on changing, and this is very important. And there is nothing to feel guilty about it. Just because you idolize one person and see him or her as a mentor doesn't mean that they should be your mentor for life. No, it doesn't work that way. As we grow, as we evolve, as our thinking evolves, our mentors also keep changing, and we should choose our mentor based on our current level of thinking, based on our current levels of perception. Because if I say my mentors are so and so when I was in high school, they cannot be the same at this particular stage of my life, because as we grow, as we come across new experiences, new problems, and new challenges, of course, yes, we need contemporary mentors. And it doesn't mean that we're ditching our previous mentors. So finding that right mentor at right time at that particular stage of life is prerequisite for one's not just success, but also to have that peace of mind and to have that sense of fulfillment. And if in case you have a person in your life, who actually guides you, motivates you on a personal and professional level, you can consider yourself lucky. In fact, as I mentioned on social media today, it's rare to find teachers who actually inspire us. If in case you stumble upon and come across such teachers in your life, it means you struck a gold mine. It's as simple as that, because the impact is going to be so profound on your personal as well as professional life, right? So today is September 5th, which is celebrated as Teachers' Day in India, marking the birth anniversary of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. He was also one of our vice presidents of India, and commemorating his contributions. We're celebrating today as Teachers' Day, and for all the teachers who are working towards inspiring the next generation, thank you so much. And thank you guys for your wishes. I'll get back to your comments at the end of this slide. So before we go ahead, as I said, I hope the stream is going on fine. If at all there are any issues with streaming, please let me know. I think there is some buffering happening in between. If there is no continuity in the stream, please let me know so that we can change. I can change the source of my connection. Right now I'm using Wi-Fi. I think I can switch to mobile data if necessary. Please do let me know. So today we're going to discuss a very important topic. A topic which is useful for every one of us, whether we're a student or a teacher, it doesn't matter. So helpful memory techniques. In fact, if you see the thumbnail of this particular video, I'm going to discuss 10 helpful memory techniques which are going to help you right from now in order to not just store your memory but also helps you retrieve it in a much better manner. So first and foremost, there are few things which I wanted to highlight before I move on to this 10 tips or 10 techniques of improving your memory. The first and foremost thing which I wanted to highlight is this is general information before we move on to these strategies on how to improve our memory. How much memory do we have? Let's start from there. How much memory you think we have? Usually we keep listening to these opinions that we have a lot of memory, we have unlimited memory, but according to some studies, in one of the books which I was referring, that's based on subconscious mind's power, they clearly state that human memory, if at all we calculate, we have around a storage capacity of 22 into 10 power 30 bits of information. I've done a video on this quite a few years ago. So the human memory capacity is 22 into 10 power 30 bits of information, right? So let's suppose if we are accepting 10 new facts per second for the next 70 years, that is approximately for our entire lifetime. Let's suppose we are accepting or we are learning or we are coming across, whatever phrase you would like to use. Let's suppose you're coming across 10 new facts every second for the next 70 years. It comes down to around 22 into 10 power 9 bits of information. 22 into 10 power 9 bits of information. However, human memory has a capacity of 22 into 10 power 30 bits of information, which means even if you start accepting 10 new facts per second for the next 70 years, you still have a lot of memory that is left within you, where you can even accept more and more information. So what does it mean? It means that we as humans, almost all of us have similar memories, even though the levels might vary, but all of us in general on an average have similar memory capacity. So what it means is that we have no issues with memory. We have abundant space left to store all the information that we come across in this entire lifetime. But the real challenge comes not with our ability to memorize things, but with our ability to recollect things. That's where the real challenge lies. We can memorize everything, we can remember everything, but our ability to recall things is something where we should work on, is something where we actually stumble upon. So in this particular live stream, we'll focus on that. We'll focus on various memory tips which are based on psychological research, which will help us not just to store information in an efficient manner, not just to consolidate information in the brain, but also to recall in an efficient manner, right? So as I said, we have plenty of memory, so we have no issues with that. Every one of us has plenty of memory. Now there are 5 fundamental things which I wanted to highlight before we move on to the actual tips which I wanted to highlight. 5 fundamental aspects. The first one is sleep. Sleep is something which is very much essential. Sleep, if it is impaired, if sleep is hindered, if sleep is affected, then memory retention is also affected, as proven by various studies. In fact, I have some information with me which I will read it out so that it can justify whatever I'm saying, which has a scientific backing. So when sleep is impaired, the memory is also impaired. So let me just read out some literature in regard to this. Sleep deprivation leads to memory impairment, as mentioned in one of the psychological textbooks. And there was a study done in 2004, way back in 2004, by Pine and Nadel, who stated and argued that the content of dreams, the dreams that we have, is the result of memory consolidation. We dream about the things long-term memory. Thus, dreaming may be an important part of learning that we do while sleeping, which means when we have a good sleep, we'll have some dreams. In fact, all of us have dreams. Mostly we don't remember, but most of us will have dreams. So when we have good sleep and when we are having these memories, it's a clear-cut indication of the fact that whatever information that we acquired in the process of a day-to-day activity is being transferred into long-term memory, and in the process of this consolidation we are having these memories. In fact, Sigmund Freud, one of the famous psychologists, said, even though he was not right completely, he stated that dreams are unfulfilled wishes. So in a way, sleeping well, having dreams, having deep sleep for that matter, are prerequisites for better memory retention, because during sleep there is something important that's happening which is called as consolidation. So in memory, in order to remember things, in order to memorize things, there are three fundamental steps. The first one is encoding the information. The second step is consolidation, and the third step is recollection. So encoding the information, like how you categorize information, how you create new neuronal pathways, how you store information, that is called as encoding of the information. And the second one is consolidation. Consolidation means trying to process the memory and then shifting it to long-term memory in our brain during sleep process. And then recall. So recall means, for example, let's suppose I'm asking you questions now, or you're attending an exam. So when you're attending an exam, right, you need to recall the information, or else what good does having so much memory do if we can't recall what we know? So recall is also equally important, right? So in the process of memory, in the process of learning, basically and fundamentally we have these three steps. One is encoding the information, the second one is consolidation, third one is recollection. Once we know how things are happening, then it will be easy for us to remember. It will be easy for us to find out certain tricks as to how we can improve these processes, right? So the first fundamental thing which I wanted to highlight is sleep. So sleep, if done properly, efficiently, and in a deep restful sleep, if we're getting it, then memory retention also improves drastically, right? And the second thing which I wanted to highlight is food. So fundamental things before we get into the depth of the topic. When it comes to food, the food we eat, we often take it for granted. Eating nutritious food is very important. In fact, when I was going through some of the articles in Harvard Health, they clearly mentioned a link between vitamin deficiency and cognition. Vitamin deficiency leading to decreased cognitive ability, vitamin deficiency leading to memory impairment. In fact, they say especially vitamin B12 and vitamin D have an important role in cognition and memory processing. Now, let's not go into the details of it, but the point here is the food we eat is very essential. If we are having nutritious food, it's in a way going to enhance our memory, enhance our cognition, enhance our processing of memory, right? So just keep that in mind. So rather than having nonsensical food, fried food, food which is rich with calories but deficient in these macronutrients and micronutrients, it serves no purpose. So have a balanced food if you're looking to enhance your memory. So the first fundamental thing which I wanted to highlight is having better sleep, good sleep, deep sleep, sleep filled with memories. In fact, it's a very good thing. If you remember, I keep on highlighting in every live session possible that it's important that you revise just before you sleep. Because once you revise before you sleep, the ability of the information to be shifted to long-term memory is more. So there is better consolidation of memory. So always try to revise before you sleep and try to get deep sleep, restful sleep. Follow your biological clock, circadian rhythms. Sleep during nights, right? Rather than during daytime. So first one is focus on your sleep. The second one is food, nutritious food rich with all these vitamins, minerals, other nutrients, macronutrients, etc. And the third one which I wanted to highlight is the environmental conditions. The environmental conditions play a very important role. When I say environmental conditions, I'm not just talking about the climatic conditions. I'm also talking about the space which you are in, the physical space you are in. If you're in a space where you're constantly being disturbed, right, constantly being bombarded with all kinds of nonsensical stimuli, then it's not conducive to learn. The encoding doesn't happen properly. Your ability to take in information doesn't happen efficiently. That's the reason why I usually suggest students to utilize a study space, a dedicated study space, if possible a library. A library is one of the best spaces which you can ever have, provided there are no distractions over there. So the physical environment you are in plays a very important role. And here comes the role of smartphone. Your smartphones, if they are constantly disturbing you, again, your focus will be lost and your ability to receive information will be lost greatly, right? So the environment plays a very crucial role, the fundamental aspects. So apart from sleep, apart from food, the environment also plays a very important role, including your smartphones. And the fourth one, which I keep on highlighting, is revision and repetition of information, which we'll discuss elaborately in the tips a bit later. And finally, the fifth one, which I wanted to highlight, is meditation. Meditation is something which we take it for granted. Mostly we find it very difficult to define what meditation is. In my understanding, meditation is just simply sitting in a comfortable position as per your choice and then trying not to get distracted by the thoughts. And once you do it consciously for 10 minutes or so, what happens is from the wakeful state, you will end, that is from the beta state. EEG, you have various stages in sleep, right? From the wakeful state, that is beta state, you will gradually transfer into alpha state or daydreaming. And then if you do it intensely for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you will enter into a further deeper state of meditation, which is theta state, the aha state, right? So what happens with meditation is that overall, you're trying to calm yourself. You're trying to maintain that composure. In fact, through meditation, you're slowing down. And not just slowing down physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And this calmness and composure is very much important, especially when you're trying to recall information. Let's suppose you're in hurry. Do you think you can recall information when you're in a hurry? Or do you think you can better recall information when you are in a calm, composed state of mind? It's as simple as that. So in my experience, where I keep meditating for more than 15-20 minutes per day consistently, what I've realized is that this meditation concept will help you slow you down, will help you give you that kind of calmness and composure that is required for you to recall the information whenever that's required. And meditation also has many other benefits, which is beyond the purview of discussion of this live session. If you're interested, there are many PubMed indexed articles, many scientific articles suggesting or encouraging meditation and its impact on memory, right? And these are the 5 fundamental things which I wanted to highlight: sleep, food, physical environment you are in, including smartphones, the importance of revision and repetition, and the 5th one is meditation. Now coming to actual techniques on how to improve memory. So this is something which we're all really interested in. We all want to know like which tips that we need to follow in order to improve our memory. Are there some tips? Are there some hacks through which we can improve our memory? Of course, yes, there are some tips. Of course, yes, there are some hacks. Apart from those which we discussed previously, which are based on my general experience, observation, which most of us know, but often find it difficult to follow. But right now, we'll go through some research based tips, right? The first and foremost technique. So these are helpful memory tips which are based on sound psychological research. The first one is the first one. Let me just type out the same here. So the first memory tip, using elaboration. So what does this elaboration mean? By the way, before that, Mamta, hi Mamta, thank you so much for your wishes. Hi Sujay, hi Rajkumar, hi Shagufta, thank you so much. Yeah, so the first memory tip based on psychological research is using elaboration. What does it mean? For example, if I say like GIC, glass ionomer cement, binds with tooth chemically. Okay, you've just heard this statement. And after a few days, or after a few months, or after a few years, we tend to forget this because we just heard a plain statement, a bland statement, where the statement is, the phrase is as follows: GIC binds tooth chemically. There is no depth to this statement. There is no elaborate information in this statement. So when I say use elaboration, I mean the following. GIC is a kind of cement, glass ionomer cement, which has carboxylic groups, as you all know. And these carboxylic groups bind chemically with the calcium that is present in the tooth, the inorganic component of the tooth, whether it can be enamel, dentin, or cementum as such. So all these inorganic components, the tissues of the tooth, their inorganic components include calcium along with other minerals. So the carboxylic group, or the carboxylic groups in the glass ionomer cement, the polyacrylic acid that you use, the polycarboxylic acid that you use, the free carboxylic groups in the cement are binding chemically with the calcium of the tooth. It can be an enamel, dentin, or cementum, right? So if you go with this elaboration, do you think you're going to forget about this chemical nature? Do you think you're going to forget the fact that GIC binds to tooth chemically? Never in your life will you forget this. Trust me in this. So the point here is, when you go in depth, when you go in elaboration, when you elaborate the details, it will be easy for you to remember things. It's as simple as that. So any information that you go through, use elaboration. And the problem here is, the problem which most of us face is, we want lots of information, but we don't go into or get into elaboration. We don't get into depth. We just look into the information superficially, as a consequence of which the memory is not processed efficiently. We're just looking at things superficial. And thanks to smartphones, thanks to drop in our, the focus, our ability to focus on things, our attention spans are dropping at an alarming rate. Thanks to these things, these negative things, that our ability to elaborate is even further diminishing. So especially when you're preparing for entrance, let's take that as a context here, especially when you're preparing for competitive exams. When you're trying to memorize certain things, use elaboration. And once you elaborate things over, you're never ever going to forget. So next time when someone says, or whether you have a question like, what's the nature of bond between GIC and tooth? Is it physical, chemical, or what? Then it will be easy for you to remember because you have elaborated on this particular statement, right? So the first one is using elaboration. And the second memory tip, let me just type out on the chat box. And those who are interested can make a note as well. Hi Sujay, hi Amruta, hi Nikhil, thank you so much for your wishes. The second memory tip is use self-reference effect. So what is this self-reference effect? For example, last week, last live session, we discussed about a concept of learning, which is learning based on association, that is classical conditioning. So, if you remember, in classical conditioning, you know how it happens, right? The bell sound, the stimulus, and then dogs salivate to the bell sound rather than the food, because the bell sound has been, associated with the food, which is leading to salivation. So you know the concept of classical conditioning. How to remember it in a much easier manner? By using this concept of self-reference. This is something which we all use, right? How do you use this self-reference effect or self-reference concept? For example, during the process of discussion of classical conditioning, I told you about how this concept is being used in commercials in order to bait us into buying things. So for example, if I go into a supermarket, if I look into a store, if I look into soft drinks, when I look into Coca-Cola, I smile automatically. The fact that I'm smiling looking at Coca-Cola, or the fact that I'm feeling good looking at Coca-Cola, reflects the fact that I have been conditioned into believing that Coca-Cola means happiness, Coca-Cola means party mode. So if you look into television ads, you see young people, happy people, smiling, dancing, partying, having this soft drink, cold drink, Coca-Cola. So which means the advertiser wants us to associate happiness with Coca-Cola. So when you look into Coca-Cola on a supermarket store, you smile, you feel good, even without your conscious effort. So once you are applying that to yourself, or when you are trying to, kind of correlate that learning principle with your own example, it will be much easier for you to remember things. So that's what I mean when I say self-reference effect or self-reference concept. I'll give you another example. There is a phenomenon called tip of the tongue phenomena. So what is this tip of the tongue phenomena? Tip of the tongue phenomena means, for example, especially during exams or during Viva, if someone asks you a question, if your teacher asks you a question, you know the answer to the question, but you're not able to give it out. You just forgot. You know the answer though. You have studied that extensively, but you're not able to retrieve that information. So this is called as tip of the tongue phenomenon, right? So when you correlate this example with your own experience, like, oh, that time when I was in exam, even though I studied, even though I knew the answer, I couldn't recollect, I just forgot. So it will be easy for you to remember, right? So this is the concept behind self-reference effect, right? So the second memory tip, which we are talking about, is using self-reference. And the third one is, there is something called as forgetting curve. The third one is forgetting curve, which means whatever information that you study or you acquire, there is a tendency to forget. Especially, this is evident especially when you are going through a volatile subject such as biochemistry. Biochemistry, you go through citric acid cycle, you go through glycolysis, you go through any kind of reaction. You'll remember it hardly for few hours, few days, few weeks, and after 2 or 3 weeks, we tend to forget the entire information, right? Which means it has nothing to do with your deficiency. It is not that you are at a disadvantage. Humans have this forgetting curve. As per research, the information that you get will be lost after few days or few weeks, right? That's the reason why you need to revise before exams. Revision before exam is very much important for this very same reason, because we tend to forget things after few days or few weeks. No matter how much perfect you were when you were studying, no matter how much energy and time you invested when you were studying, no matter how good you scored in the exams on that particular moment, after few days or few weeks or few months, we tend to forget that information. This happens. There is something called as forgetting curve. So in order to overcome that, it's important that we revise before the exams. Especially last minute revision before the exam. Dealing with these volatile topics is very, very important for the very same reason. If it is a conceptual learning, we'll remember it. If it is based on, like, for example, classical conditioning, since we're learning by association, it will be easy for us to remember. But if you're learning cycles such as citric acid cycle or memory based topics or numericals, then revising before the exam will serve the required purpose, right? So the third one is, since we have this forgetting curve, since forgetting is a possibility, revision before exam, especially last minute revision before exam, is very, very important. Okay. And the fourth one is, now I'm smiling because when I say last minute revision, it's not that you just open the book as you're going to the exam center, which we see mostly some students doing it. No, it doesn't mean, I don't mean, when I say last minute revision, I don't mean by that. All I'm saying is last few days before the exam, right? That's what I mean when I said last minute revision. It has nothing to do with revising as you're going to the exam center. No. In fact, that would be a counterproductive strategy. It increases your attention and anxiety, and you'll forget everything that you're going through. Okay? And the fourth memory tip is spacing effect. So the fourth one is spacing effect. So what is this spacing effect? This is very interesting. Let's suppose you have 1 hour to study. Let's suppose you just have 1 hour to acquire some information. Let's take, for example, classical conditioning again, since we dealt with that last week. So you have 1 hour to study classical conditioning. Okay. Let's take 3 examples, 3 scenarios. In one scenario, student has studied for 1 hour. Okay. He has studied classical conditioning for 1 hour. Fine. Now let's take scenario 2, where a student has studied for half an hour today and half an hour tomorrow, which means 1 hour has been divided into half an hour each, today and tomorrow, and he allotted that half an hour each for classical conditioning. And let's take scenario 3, where a student has studied today for 15 minutes, tomorrow for another 15 minutes, day after tomorrow for another 15 minutes, and then fourth day another 15 minutes, right? So when we try to do some research, and when we try to analyze, and when we try to test those students from those 3 scenarios, who do you think does better? As per psychological research, as per observation, as per research, a student who allots small amount of time consistently over a longer period of time, that is in third scenario, where the student is allotting 15 minutes per day for the next 4 days, tends to do much better than other students from other scenarios. This is spacing effect. So spacing effect means your ability to divide time into small bits and pieces, and then consistently allotting time towards preparation. In simple terms, study every day. In simple terms, be consistent rather than cramming up the entire information at last moment, or just studying everything at once. It serves very little purpose. I'm not going to say it serves no purpose. It's going to serve very little purpose. So whenever possible, use this spacing effect. I hope it's clear. So divide your time, allot it in such a way that you're studying the topics consistently, gradually, over a period of time, rather than studying everything at once. Okay? So spacing effect is known to improve your memory. I hope it's clear. Now, coming to the 5th memory tip. Anyways, before we conclude, I'll summarize all the tips and simplify it even further. Okay? And the 5th tip is, 5th memory tip, overlearning. So what is this overlearning? Does it mean you have to study more and more? For example, again, let's take classical conditioning. Overlearning means, even though if you think you studied classical conditioning and you're perfect with the concept, research suggests that you study it again and again repeatedly. Because when you study repeatedly, what happens is, if you study, see, for example, you studied classical conditioning, you know it in perfect, you feel that way. And when you study it for the second time, you feel like, oh, I missed this point. Oh, I came across some new information. So the tendency to feel that you are learning something more and more happens as you keep repeating, studying the concepts. So overlearning is essential because we are naturally biased to believe that we studied everything perfectly. We tend to overestimate our ability to learn things. However, research has clearly demonstrated that through repetition, we learn even better, right? So repetition is very important for this reason. So overlearning means that even though if you assume that you're perfect in a particular topic or a concept, keep reading it again, maybe second time, maybe third time, so that you can kind of strengthen your concepts, strengthen your memory, right? In fact, there is a term called LTP, long term potentiation. LTP, long term potentiation, means, for example, when you're learning a new information, what exactly happens in your brain is, see, there are some areas which are involved in memory. Cerebrum is involved in long term memory, but there are other regions in brain such as hippocampus, amygdala, cerebellum, which are involved in other forms of memory. In fact, hippocampus is involved in explicit memory, amygdala is involved in emotional memory, whereas cerebellum is involved in intrinsic memory. Okay, we have different kinds of memory like extrinsic memory, intrinsic memory, explicit memory, implicit memory, etc., etc. So let's not go into those details. These topics are important in physiological point of view, which we'll discuss some other time, like which region of brain is associated with what type of memory. So essentially what's happening is, when you learn some new information, there are some new neuronal pathways which are being formed in your brain. Let's simply understand that way. So when you're repeating over and over again, what's happening is you're strengthening those neuronal pathways and you're strengthening the synaptic connections. As a consequence, memory is formed, memory is created. So this process is called as long-term potentiation, where this repetition will lead to strengthening of these synaptic connections and transfer of this memory to long-term memory, either from hippocampus to cortex or from other regions of brain to cortex, right? So this transfer of memories from short-term to long-term can be considered as a form of consolidation which happens during sleep, which we'll discuss a bit later once again, right? So the point here is, fifth one, overlearning. So overlearning is important so that we can repeat the process, strengthen the synaptic connections, and then help in better processing of memory. As simple as that. And the sixth memory tip, which I can suggest to you, is context dependent retrieval. What is this context dependent retrieval? What does it mean? Which means your ability to recall improves when the conditions of your learning and your recall are similar. In simple terms, why do you think we're providing test series? Why do you think we're providing you test series with 240 MCQs, 180 minutes, 1/4 negative marking? Because when you're taking up these MCQs, when you're taking up these practice tests or mock tests, what happens is you're creating a condition, an exam-like condition, so that when you are giving your final exam, your ability to recall improves. So the point here is context-dependent retrieval, which means having similar conditions of learning and retrieving information. For example, when you're learning, when you're practicing MCQs, take up as many mock tests as possible. This is a brilliant way of promoting my academy and test series. So take up as many mock tests as possible, because when you are practicing under those exam-like conditions, your ability to recall information during the actual final exam increases by multiple fold as per the research. So that is called as context dependent retrieval. In simple terms, subscribe to our test series. And the seventh one is state dependent retrieval. So what is this state dependent retrieval? For example, I personally don't take drugs or alcohol, but let's suppose you have the habit of taking alcohol and you learned some information. You learned about classical conditioning when you are under alcohol influence. And if there at all there is a question in final exam from classical conditioning, you will be able to answer it only when you are under the influence of alcohol, which means you have to drink to the exam. You have to drink and go to the exam. But it doesn't happen that way, right? So which means your learning and retrieving will happen in an efficient manner when your state of mind is almost the same. Which means when you are learning, let's suppose you're happy now and you're learning something, your ability to retrieve that information will be much better when you are happy. The opposite is also true when you are sad and you're learning something when you're sad, and you're learning something when you're stressed up, you're learning something when you're depressed. So what happens is your ability to retrieve that information only happens when you are depressed. That's the reason why when we are sad, all the bad things come into our mind, because when we are sad, we think of bad things, we think of negative things. So next time when we are sad, we think of similar kind of things. So this is called as state dependent retrieval. So how can you use that in your learning context? Try to be happy. Try to maintain that calmness and composure when you are learning. This is where the power of meditation comes. As you're meditating, as you're doing things, as you're slowing down, when you're calm and composed, which comes with practice, what happens is when you're learning, when you're calm and composed, even on the final exam date, you can be calm and composed thanks to your meditation, thanks to your practice, and your ability to recall information will be improving by multiple folds. So the point is this: rather than being frustrated, worried, depressed when you're learning, because this state of mind is not permanent, this is only transient, try to develop. I'm not even asking you to be very happy or excited. All I'm saying is try to have a balanced kind of state of mind. Try to be calm and composed, if not happy or if not depressed. And when you're learning under this state, your ability to retrieve information also improves when you're calm and composed. It's as simple as that. I can give you a classical example. Let's suppose right now, I'm sure you're all calm and composed. You're learning something in the process of our discussion. Let's suppose tomorrow, I'm working as a faculty in your college. I ask you some questions. You're terrified about me. You're terrified that I might fail you. Do you think you're able to retrieve information? No, you'll not retrieve. Even though if you learn something, you'll forget it. Tip of the tongue phenomena. It'll be there, but you'll not be able to recollect. So what's happening is your state of mind has changed. You're calm and composed now while learning, but you're frustrated or you're depressed or you're anxious when you're answering Viva. So things are not working out. So this is what I mean when I say state dependent retrieval. Okay. And the 8th memory tip which I can give you is place effect. This is based on my personal experience. Okay. What is this place effect? For example, if you are studying about glass ionomer cement mode of setting, you're sitting in a library and you have studied that particular topic, like how glass ionomer cement actually binds chemically to using via this chemical reactions, right? Carboxylic groups, calcium, through various stages of setting, which we discussed on YouTube. So you're studying this in library, right? I'm specifically using the word library. So what happens is, next time, whenever you try to recollect this setting reaction, your library will come into picture and it will help you remember the information in a much better way, which means you're associating or linking up the learning to that particular place. So when you're going through the setting reaction of GIC, you keep telling yourself, yeah, I was in library when I was studying this topic. So there will be better linking and better association and better retrieval in the process. Try doing it, right? So you can link up or associate the learning concepts with the actual place you are in. Like for suppose you are to a new place, you have been to a new place, right? Let's suppose last month I have been in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In Kuala Lumpur, I learned something new. So whenever I come across that information, Kuala Lumpur comes into picture. Or whenever Kuala Lumpur comes into picture, I'll come across that learning information. So because it's all associated in our mind accordingly. So you can use this place effect. Changing places is thus very much essential rather than sticking onto the same place. So if you remember in one of the videos previously, I said that change your places. Even though you should have dedicated study spaces, change your places, like use library, use your terrace, use your balcony, use your study room, use your veranda or hall or whatever it is, right? Keep changing places as well. Even that helps to a greater extent. And the ninth one, out of my experience again, teaching. One of the best ways, one of the many best ways of improving your memory is to teach. You learned something. Let's suppose you learned about classical conditioning or GIC setting. You try teaching it to your friend or to your enemy. So in fact, in order to teach someone, you should prepare more. You should overlearn. So without that, if you superficially go, then you will not be able to teach confidently and you will fail in the process. So you need to prepare extensively. Even before this live session, I will personally show like what I do. So as you can see, this entire page, the lower part, okay, and then the next 2 pages. So what I do is I extensively prepare. I refer a lot of literature, standard literature, and I make notes so that it makes sense to me. And then in an attempt to teach or in an attempt to discuss, I do things. So what happens in the process is, apart from learning, in the process of teaching, I'm able to learn even more. I'm able to remember even more. I'm able to reinforce my concepts even more. So the point here is, as you teach, you reinforce the concepts which you already know. And that gives you a lot of power. That gives you a lot of confidence. Okay? Right. And finally, so whenever possible, teach your friends or discuss things with your friends. Discuss or teach. And final one is imagination, which you can use and reap into the benefits of imagination, especially meditation. As you're meditating, as you enter into the theta state, the aha state, you can use this rich imagination power to memorize many things, almost all unimaginable things possible. So let me just demonstrate this imagination. Let's suppose, see, if I say remember number 42, you'll remember number 42 for some time, maybe for few days, few weeks, or maybe for maximum few weeks. And after a few weeks or after a few days also, if I ask you what number did I ask you to remember, you might find it difficult to retrieve. You'll almost always forget it. 42 is a number which I said right now, and you have taken it up and it is there in your short-term memory. So how to transfer that to long-term memory? Use imagination. Imagination is one of the tools through which you can transfer that to long-term memory. Let me give you an example, a beautiful example. All of you can do this, those who are attending live and those who are watching it in a recorded format. Just close your eyes. Even I'll close my eyes as I'm doing it. Using our imagination, I'll make you remember something beautiful. So just close your eyes. So all of you, individually, you have traveled to a new place. So you have gone to a new place, a new country, where you don't know the language, you don't know anything about that place. But you've gone to that new country because you wanted to meet your friend, your very close friend. And your close friend who lives in that new country has given you clear-cut instructions like how to reach his place. So you have just landed in the airport and then you came out of the airport. Please close your eyes and imagine this. As much detail as possible, as much vividly as possible. So you landed, you collected your baggage, you came out of the airport, and then you arrived at a bus stop. And as you are waiting at the bus stop, your friend has given you some instructions. So the first instruction is wait at the bus stop and board into the bus which has a number 90. So you're waiting for a 90 bus. So now a bus, there are many buses which are coming and going. You're waiting for your bus number 90. And then a bus comes where on the top of the bus, there is an electronic display with orange letters on a black background. And the number is 90. And you're very excited looking at that number because your friend asked you to board a 90 numbered bus. So clearly remember. And you can, in fact, as you're visualizing, you can clearly see the bus. And on top of the bus, you have this display board, electronic display board with black background and orange letters. And the bus number is 90. Clearly you can see the numbers 90. You get into the bus and then the driver asks you like, where do you want to get down? Then you say you want to get down at street number 52, or the area is called as 52. And then you sit in the bus and then you will be observing around, you're observing the new place. You're very much excited because it's a new country. Even though there is language issue, you still manage to convey the driver that you need to go to area 52. Okay? So as you're traveling, you're looking at all the signboards and then the driver announces that area 52 has come. So you get down the bus and then where should you go next? Your friend asked you to search for street number in the area 52. He asked you to search for the street number 67. There are 100 streets in that area 52 and you have to enter into street number 67. Okay? Let me just rewind a bit. You entered into a 90 bus number 90, and then you entered into area 52. And in that area 52, you are searching for the street number 67. So as you're walking along that area 52, you came across a signboard with a green background and white letters, and it is written as street number 67. You can clearly see street number 67 in white letters on green background. Okay? And then you enter into that street number 67, right? And in that street number 67, you have to find out an apartment building whose number is 48, right? So there are so many buildings there. And your friend asked you to locate 48. So you're just walking along that street 67 and then you're looking for the building, apartment building 48. And then on one apartment, you can clearly see on the black background, there are some white letters where it is written as apartment block or apartment building number 48. Vividly see that. And then once you enter into that building 48, apartment building 48, then you come across the reception or the watchman over there, and then you tell him that you have to go to flat number 20. And then he tells you to take the lift, get down at second floor because it is flat number 20. And then you take the lift, get down at second floor, and then search for the flat number 20. And you come across 20. There is a wooden door with golden letters 20. Okay, 20. And as you knock on the door, your friend opens the door. Yeah. Hi. If you have done that vividly, and by the way, I'm your friend. If you have done that vividly, in a very detailed, intricate manner, with all the details, you'll remember the entire chain of events. Right from the boarding bus number 90, and then getting into area 52, and then searching for street number 67, and then finding that apartment building block 48, and then the flat number 20, right? So in fact, in the process, I've given you my phone number, 9052674820. If I say, remember 9052674820, your short-term memory might remember for a few moments, but after that, it is highly impossible unless a person is a genius. But on an average level, it's not possible to remember 10 digits at once in long-term memory. It's not possible, humanly possible. in general, on an average. So what we have done right now is we have used our visualization potential. See, I said meditation is important because when I was visualizing, there was no distraction for me. So meditation in a way helps you to stay in that imaginative world for a longer time, sans distractions. So 90 bus, 52 street, 52 area, 67th street, 48 apartment building, 20 flat number. So now you know the phone number. So you can call me anytime. So this is the beauty of using our imagination. We can remember things, especially when you're imagining. What happens is through pictures, through vividity, and through intricate details, we can better store that information in our long-term memory. And even after a few months, even after a few years, I'm sure you will remember this if you are doing it, if the process is done in an efficient manner, if your imagination is vivid, if your imagination has no distractions, no disturbances in the process. So no matter what you're studying, the point is this: no matter what you're studying, you're loving it, you're loving the process, and you're giving your 100%. You are focusing all your energies 100%. Then learning itself becomes fun, and processing of memory becomes more efficient, retrieval becomes even more efficient. And keeping all these things aside, I've discussed about 10 things. Keeping all these 10 tips aside, if you carefully observe, all this information is only to encode your information in your brain. As I said, in the process of learning, there are 3 important steps. The first one is encoding the information, the second one is consolidation, and the third one is retrieval. So using these 10 tips or whatever tips we discussed, you can take care of encoding and retrieval. Okay, you can take care of encoding and retrieval. But what about consolidation? What about shifting of the memory to long term? What about strengthening the synaptic connections, neuronal pathways that you have created in the process of learning? Because when you're learning something new, a new neuronal pathway has been created. And when you're repeating, when you're revising, there is strengthening of the synaptic connections along that neuronal pathway. And then memory is being reinforced, which is nothing but consolidation. So how is this consolidation happening? It has nothing to do with these tips. It has nothing to do with these hacks. It has nothing to do with the tricks. Consolidation has something to do with the sleep, your ability to sleep well. So no matter how many tips and tricks you come across, they will work only when you have better sleep. Unless you have better sleep, they are not going to work. So better sleep, when I say better sleep, sleeping early, following your circadian rhythms, having dreams, which is a fantastic thing, and then trying to get that deep restful sleep. And in order to achieve that restful sleep, here are some of the tips. At least 1 to 2 hours prior your sleep, cut down your smartphone usage. And then in order to promote melatonin secretion after 8 p.m., try to dim out the lights, right? And then try to sleep as early as possible and wake up as early as possible. Follow the sun, more or less. So what happens is, and in the process to have that deep sleep, be physically active, because entire day if you're just sitting, if you're just inactive, in fact there is a WHO report, I've seen that today, which states that almost 20 crore Indians are falling short of the recommended activity levels, and they come under less active zone, where they are more prone to various health style or lifestyle related diseases. Almost 20 crore Indians, including most of us who are attending this live session, were inactive. According to WHO recommendations, we need to have at least 150 minutes of cumulative, moderate to severe exercise on a weekly basis. How many of us are getting this? So almost most of us are inactive. 20 crore based on their studies, but I feel especially in the urban areas, we are inactive. So when we are active, when we start working out, I work out, I do some exercises, I do some stretches, what happens is your sleep quality improves. Trust me in this. You do a very good workout, not before you sleep, early morning or in the evening time. You do a very good workout. Your sleep quota improves drastically. Not the quantity of sleep, but the quality of sleep. 6 to 7 hours, maybe, or 7 to 8 hours, you'll get a very deep, restful sleep. And that is key for consolidation of memory. I cannot highlight this much better way than this. There is no replacement for sleep. Drugs, in fact, there are some drugs which are available. Like the best drug which we all take is caffeine. I stopped taking caffeine. Depending on these drugs, studies have shown that they have no drastic improvement in memory, not even partial improvement in memory. In fact, they say that hardly taking any of these drinks is going to lead to glucose spike, which might improve your memory. That is there, but drugs as such are not going to improve your memory. Amphetamines, or there are some category of drugs, but they are not proven to be in any way efficacious. So when we have something natural which we can do to yourself, to ourselves, sleep is one of the best medications that we have. So why can't we take care of it? So along with the tips that we discussed, take care of your sleep. Just keep that in mind. And before I conclude, let me summarize all that we have discussed so far. So memory, we all have great memory. Every one of us have great memory capacity. In fact, as I quoted some information, the memory capacity of humans, according to one of the authors, according to one of the books, is 22 into 10 power 30 bits of information. So that's the capacity of human brain. And in order to come to a practical understanding of what that means, if you start accepting 10 new facts or bits of information every second for the next 70 years or for the rest of your lifetime, the amount of information that you store it comes down to around 22 into 10 power 9 bits of information. But your memory capacity is 22 into 10 power 30 bits of information. So even if you keep accepting 10 new facts every second for 70 years, there is still a lot of space available in your memory. So what is the major problem that we face when it comes to memory? It's not memory as such, it's our inability to recall mostly, right? It's our inability to recall. That's where most of us fumble, right? See, as I said, there are 3 stages in memory processing, right? In learning things. The first one is encoding, that is your ability to take information. The second one is consolidation, and the third one is recallability. So because of these smartphones, because of these technological advancements, because of drop in our attention span, what's happening is even our encoding is being affected. We're not paying attention. We're not being mindful towards the activity. That's the reason why we're not able to absorb the information properly. So step 1 is being affected. And when it comes to step 2, consolidation, most of us have, especially now urban areas, the sleep is kind of compromised. So step 2 is also compromised. And when it comes to recallability, recall will be good only once your consolidation is good, only once your encoding is good. And thanks to these environmental influences of anxiety, fear, negativity, recall is diminished and destroyed. So now, since we know the reasons behind these problems, there are still so many reasons, but I'm giving you a glimpse of it. I'm giving an overview of it. Since we know the reasons behind the issues we are facing, if we keep working on that, we can improve our memory, we can improve our consolidation, we can improve our encoding, we can improve our recallability, right? So as I said, how to encode efficiently, I've given you some tips. Before going into the tips, I've discussed 5 fundamental areas, that is taking care of food, taking care of sleep. Sleep, I already gave you detailed information, like without proper sleep, there is no consolidation, right? And what about food? Vitamin deficiency leads to memory issues. So take care of your food habits as well. Take nutritious food, healthy food. And your environmental conditions, smartphones, you need to take care of it. Revision and repetition, we already discussed in these tips, which we'll go through again a bit later. And meditation in a way helps you calm down, slow down, gives you that calmness and composure, which improves your encoding ability as well as recallability. Okay, now finally coming to all these tips, as you can see, tip 1 I've mentioned about using elaboration. So what do you mean by using elaboration? So these 10 tips, these have a scientific backing. These are based on psychological research, the first 7 of them. The last 3 are based on my experience again. So the first one is using elaboration. So when you go in depth of that particular topic or concept, it will be easy for you to remember. Simple. And second one is using self-reference effect. When you correlate the given information to your own experience, it will be much more easier for you to remember things. The third one is forgetting curve. We all forget things. That's completely human in nature. You need not blame yourself for that. But the point is, revise before exam or revise repeatedly at strategic intervals. You take our schedule, we have these cumulative tests which are meant to promote this, remembering power. So try to revise. Revision is important for this reason. And the fourth one is spacing effect. What is this spacing effect? Rather than studying everything at once, study consistently every day, and that gives you better results. And what is this fifth point? The fifth memory tip is overlearning. We are in an assumption that we're perfect, but as you keep repeating it, you will try to master it more and more, and then you will realize that your first learning is not perfect as you thought. And with this repetition, what happens is there is a strengthening of synaptic connections, okay, leading to something called as long-term potentiation or LTP. And sixth one is context dependent retrieval, which means like the conditions of your learning and your retrieval of information should be the same. So we keep asking you to take up mock tests because it's similar to the final exam, right? The condition 180 minutes, 240 MCQs, 1/4 negative marking when it comes to NEET MDS. So what happens is, in your final exam, your ability to recall information or to answer questions confidently also improves because your conditions of learning, your conditions of testing yourself are the same. So that is context dependent retrieval. And seventh one is state dependent retrieval, which means your state of mind. So when you study in a calm and composed manner, when you study under those conditions, so on the final exam day, when you're calm and composed, you'll remember each and everything. If you're tensed and stressed up, you'll remember certain things. And in order to retrieve that information, you should be tensed and stressed up, which is not worth the effort. Okay? Yeah. And the eighth one is place effect, which I termed it. So associate the things you're learning to the places, right? Which we have done in the form of imagination previously. And the ninth one is teaching. When you teach, what happens is you're again strengthening what you know. You're again repeating the process, right? Repetition. And the 10th one is imagination. We've seen how using our imagination, you could remember my phone number. You got into a bus number 90, and then you dropped it in area 52, and then you entered into a street 67, and then you were searching for an apartment building number 48, and then you were looking into a flat number 20. That's it. Use it to remember things using your visualization, memory-based topics, or it can be image-based learning. Even that can be made possible through this imagination, right? So these are some of the tips which I wanted to highlight. So as I said, initially I wanted to discuss 5 tips, but I thought like, why can't we extend and elaborate and include other tips as well? So these are the 10 core tips, starting from elaboration, self-reference effect, forgetting curve, spacing effect, overlearning, context-dependent retrieval, state-dependent retrieval, place effect, teaching, imagination, and so on and so forth. And finally, we have seen that no matter which tip you learn, no matter which tip or hack you master, without sleep or by compromising sleep, you cannot improve your memory. By compromising the food that you take, you cannot improve your memory. By compromising on using your smartphone and then allowing yourself to get distracted with continuous pinging sounds and your attention span dropping, your ability to encode information diminishes. And as I said, in the wider context of learning, we have encoding of the information, consolidation of the memory or the information that we obtain, and then retrieval of the information. So take care of this encoding, consolidation, and retrieval. Using these 10 tips, memory tips, you can take care of encoding and retrieval. But consolidation can only be taken care of by sleep, right? So I hope this session is helpful. And if you have any questions, you need any further inputs, you can use the chat box and you can pose your questions. We'll take a few questions and then we'll conclude this live. Okay. So first I heard from Mamta. Once again, hi Mamta, hi Sujay, hi Rajkumar, hi Shagufta, hi Nikhil, hi Amruta, hi Sujay. So today, Teachers Day, thank you so much for all your wishes. Hi Sudiksha, thank you. So do we have any questions? Sirshi, hi Sirshi, thank you. So which places are you from? Sudiksha, I know Sudiksha is from Tamil Nadu, right? Madurai? Yeah, Sirshi. Sujay is from Patna. Sujay is one of our previous students. I know Sujay. Sujay Singh is from Patna. And Sujay Vivek is right now in Kochi. He is one of my students. Mamta is in Bangalore. Yeah, I'm happy that I remember most of your places. So Rajkumar, are you from Andhra? Shagufta, I think you are from Jharkhand, if I'm not wrong. Or is that a different Shagufta? Or are you from Bangalore? Nikhil, which place are you from, Nikhil? Amruta, are you from Andhra? Ah, Sirshi is from Andhra. Okay, that's good. Namaskaram. Hello now. So, how is your place, Sirshi? I'm from Vijayawada. So, our area is flooded. And situation is coming to normal now, a bit normal now. How is the scenario in your place? Hi, Vittal. Sujay, how self-reference effect can help to improve learning and memory? I've given you an example, right? Self-reference effect. For example, there is a phenomena called tip of the tongue phenomena. The name of the phenomena is tip of the tongue. Let me just type it. So what does it mean? Tip of the tongue phenomena. I'll explain what it means and then I'll get to the concept. Tip of the tongue means you studied something, you know the answer to the question, but you're not able to recollect that answer at that particular moment, right? For example, I'm asking you a question now. Now you will say, sir, I know the answer, but I'm not able to recollect that information. So you know the answer, it is almost at the tip of the tongue, but you're not able to remember it. You're not able to recollect it, right? So this is called as tip of the tongue. So how do you remember this? How to remember it in a simplified manner? Now, use your own experience. Like for example, last year, let's suppose you gave NEET exam. So when you're going through one particular case-based question, you knew the answer to that question, but unfortunately, you couldn't retrieve that information and you marked the wrong answer. So that's a tip of the tongue phenomena which you experienced last year, right? So when something is being taught to you and when you're learning something new, and when you correlate that with your own experience, if possible, not everything can be correlated. How can you correlate a value with yourself? For example, if I say specific gravity of an animal is 2.3 or something, you cannot correlate that with you, right? there are some things which you can correlate with yourself. So if at all you can correlate, and this process of correlation will help you remember and memorize that concept and recall that concept in a simplified manner. So that is called as self-reference effect. So you're using your own reference in order to achieve that correlation with what you have learned, so that you can remember it easily, so that you can recall it easily, so that you can encode it easily and recall it easily, right? So this is called as self-reference effect. I've also given you an example of classical conditioning, right? So Gauri Shetty, hi Gauri Shetty, what's good, Bruda? What is this Bruda? What does it mean? What does it mean, Gauri? You're welcome, Sujay. So guys, any other questions? Hi Ether. Sirshi, you're from Nellore. Okay, that's good. So it's towards the southern part of Andhra, right? Yeah. You're lucky. So there are no rains in the last 4 to 5 days, Sirshi? No rains whatsoever? Okay. Hi, Ether. Okay, it's almost 8:50. So we'll see if we can come up with another live session tomorrow or day after tomorrow. We'll work on schedule and we'll get back to you accordingly. You can just keep a tab on our social media platforms, YouTube community page. And I hope the tips which we discussed here in this session are helpful, and your feedback is always welcome, right? So we're launching a new batch from September. So we've come up with a new batch, Leo batch, September schedule. So those are planning to start your preparation, or those who are already into preparation or looking to crack the upcoming NEET MDS 2025, the top all India rank. You can check out PTBD Academy's e-classes, test series and study materials. Drop a mail at proudtobedentist@gmail.com for all the details. proudtobedentist@gmail.com. Yeah, we have a question. Ether has a question. Did I pronounce it correctly, Ether? So how can we balance between self-studying and e-classes? It's very simple. Self-studying, see, whether it is e-classes or test series or study materials that we offer, they have to be incorporated in your self-studying. So when you're studying, you have to incorporate these resources. Self-studying is not a separate entity. It's not a separate phenomena. What we usually suggest to students is, for example, you've taken up the courses of PTBD Academy. So once, let's suppose, morning, you watch some videos, right, from our e-classes platform from a particular subject. And then you go to test series, practice some multiple choice questions. And then you go through some key points. And then you go through some topic-wise MCQs. And then you go through your own resources, if at all you have. And then you prepare notes simultaneously. So in the process of studying, and then referring standard textbooks whenever you have a doubt or whenever you need a clarification. So in the process of your day, you're using various resources and you're bringing diversity into your preparation using e-classes, test series, study materials, standard textbooks, etc., etc., right? Even discussing subject with your friends or even attending these live sessions. So this way, this is all self-study, right? So all of these activities come under self-study. If I'm preparing for exam, I'm studying, right, throughout the day. So in this self-study, which is not a separate entity, by the way, in this self-study, you should be able to incorporate various resources in order to bring diversity into your preparation so that there is no passivation. Because if there is no diversity, if you're just practicing MCQs time and again, it brings passivation. Again, it affects your encoding ability. So try to bring diversity by incorporating these different resources, and that's one of the things which we do in our academy. Not just providing MCQs. Along with that, you have various soft copies of key points, study materials, assignments, e-classes platform, live sessions, doubt clarifications through mail, etc., etc. Right? So by incorporating diversity into your preparation, you can enhance your preparation standards. I hope I've answered your query. Yeah. So any other questions? Or do you want me to conclude the session? Okay, it's almost 1.5 hours, I guess. So let's conclude the session. Okay, so from next live session onwards, we'll try to start our live by 7:30 p.m. IST. I'll let you know when we'll create a new live, like we'll come up with a new schedule, and whenever the live session is, we'll start it by 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Ether. You're welcome, Sirshi. Okay, yeah. So it was wonderful interacting with you guys, and I hope the session was helpful. And if you have any queries, if you need any further assistance, you can always get back through mail 24/7. And as I said previously, we'll try to incorporate more live sessions, and also, if possible, we'll try to incorporate the whiteboard lectures as well, in live as well as recorded videos. So, welcome. Good night. You're welcome, Sujay. Thank you.